Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a deep technical dive on Canaan Inc., a Bitcoin hardware company that's just been on an absolutely wild ride. So just how wild are we talking? Well, try this on for size. The stock price rocketed up over 150% in just a few weeks. Yeah, a move like that doesn't just turn heads, it makes the whole market stop and stare. And according to the report we're looking at, this whole thing was basically fueled by two things. First, you've got this huge momentum in the crypto world, and second, just a massive spike in trading volume. I mean, we're talking about almost 150 million shares trading hands in a single day. That's a ton of attention. Okay, so that's the big question, right? The one this whole analysis is trying to figure out. Is this thing a rocket ship that's just getting started, or is it more like a falling star that's about to fizzle out? All right, so let's dig in, starting with the bull case. What are all the green flags telling us to go, go, go? First up, we've got something called the ADX, the Average Directional Index. Now, you can just think of this as a gauge for how strong a trend is. Anything over 25 is pretty strong. So a reading of 41.86, that's basically screaming that this uptrend is powerful and it's in charge right now. And get this, it's not just strong, it's fast. The report literally calls it an explosive uptrend. I mean, look at the rate of change metric. It's over 80%. That's not just moving up. That's some serious acceleration. And then there's this. Take a look at how far the price is floating above its key moving averages. It's more than 57% above its 200-day average. That's a textbook sign of a super bullish setup, you know? It means the short-term, medium-term, and long-term pictures are all pointing in the exact same direction, up. So with all these green flags, it's really easy to get caught up in the hype, right? But this is where the report gets real and asks the million-dollar question. Can a rally this hot really last forever without getting burned? All right, let's flip the coin and look at the other side of the argument, the bear case. Let's see what warning signs are popping up that suggest maybe, just maybe, this thing has gone a little too far, too fast. Okay, before we dive into the numbers here, we got to talk about a tool called the RSI, or Relative Strength Index. The best way to think about it is like a car's speedometer. The higher the number, the faster the stock's price is moving. But if that needle gets above 70, it's kind of like a warning light on your dashboard. It's telling you the engine is overbought and might need to cool down a bit. In this chart right here, it shows you exactly what I'm talking about. The RSI is getting pretty darn close to that 70 danger zone. And even more telling, another indicator, the stochastic, is already in overbought territory. So the signals are suggesting that the momentum, well, it might be running out of gas. So you end up with this really interesting conflict in the charts. On one hand, you've got an indicator called the MACD that's still positive, still saying, hey, there's more room to run. But on the other hand, you've got the stochastic flashing that big red warning light. It really is like the market has one foot on the gas and the other hovering right over the brake. Okay, so we've got strong points for the bulls and some serious warnings from the bears. How in the world does this report balance all of that to come up with a final verdict? What do they land on this? Well, they actually break it down into two different time frames. For the super short term, like the next week or two, the call is basically to hold. They're saying, let's be cautious because of those overheating signals. But when you look out a bit further, say 1 to 3 months, the recommendation shifts to strongly bullish. The thinking there is that the powerful main trend is probably going to take over in the end. So what does that mean in practice? Well, the report lays out a potential strategy. It suggests looking at any dips down towards that $1.43 support level as a chance to buy in. And the target they're eyeing on the upside? That would be the $1.72 resistance level. Of course, you can't talk about a play like this without talking about the risk. And for Canaan, it's pretty straightforward. This stock is super volatile, and it's hitched to the crypto market's wagon. So if Bitcoin stumbles, the report warns that Canaan could easily get pulled back down to around the 1.37 mark. So when you roll all of this analysis together, the report gives Canaan a final technical score of 66.61. That's a solid bullish rating. And it really comes down to that super strong trend we saw, plus the good momentum. The only thing holding that score back a bit is, you guessed it, the high volatility. And that really brings us to the final takeaway here. Look, this analysis is an amazing technical roadmap. It tells you where the key levels are, what the signals are saying right now. But the real journey, that's always going to be shaped by things a chart can't predict, right? Things like breaking news, new regulations, or some crazy new thing in the crypto space. So the charts are telling one story, but what do you think is next for a company like Canaan?